Hey loves, and welcome back to my channel. It is Ijoma here, and in today's video we're going to learn how to make this ankara dress with a 2 ruffle. So I used just 3 yards of ankara for this, and I used 6 yards of this net. So I will do our pattern drafting first. At my bust point, I will mark my dart line plus half an inch. Then at the under bust, I will measure 4 inches. Like after marking 4 at the bust point, I will measure 4 at the under bust. Then I will connect the line from the under bust down to the allowance. Then from the under bust, I will connect that 4 inches to the 4.5 that I measured at my bust point. So I will also extend this 4.5 line to my chest line, and from my chest line I will come up by 1 inch or 1.5. It depends on how low or how high you want your yoke to be. So I extended my chest line by 1 inch, and I will connect from my bust point up till that 1 inch that I marked above my chest line. Then I'll go ahead and give my bustier a sweetheart shape. If you want yours to have a straight line, fine, you can just make it a straight neckline, but I want mine to have a sweetheart, so that's why I'm marking this sweetheart. So for the neckline, for the normal neckline, I used 3 by 3, and that is very okay. I used 3 by 3. It is very okay. If you want to make it 3 by 4, like 3 for the wideness and 4 for the depth, it is okay. At the under bust, I will subtract 2 inches. Like I'll go in by 2 inches. Then from that 2 inches, I will connect the straight line down to the allowance line. Then from the under bust, from the points where I measured 2 inches at the under bust, I will make my bust curve to meet my bust point. Then at the chest line, I will go in by 1 inch. I will take out 1 inch for my upper bust tightening. Then I will connect that 1 inch to my bust point. This is how I normally draft out my bustier, and it works very well for me. So right now, I will take my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance, and I will mark. If you want, you can cut out your yoke at this point before taking your bust measurement and your waist measurement. But I want to measure my bust. My bust is 36 divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. That is 11. I marked 11. At my waist is 28 divided by 4. That is 7. And I will add back that 2 inches that I took out for my dart or for my bust curve. That would be 9 plus another 2 inches for seam allowance, and that will be 11. You can make it, you can add extra half inch, or you can just mark the 11 that you got. So right now I will just connect my waist to my bust, and I will label my yoke, and then I will cut out. So I am done cutting out, and that is all for our front. So this is the normal back pattern with a zipper allowance, just that I came down by 1 inch at the yoke line. You can see that the yoke came down by 1 inch and I curved. If you want your own yoke to be straight, you can make it straight if you want. So I have labeled my yoke, and I will cut out. So when cutting, I want to open my dart. I will take out my dart and I will close it here before cutting it out on my fabric. So here is the skirt part. It is just a straight cut, and this is the net that I will be using. So there is no point making a tutorial on the skirt. It is just a straight cut, and that is my net. So using my pattern, I cut out the main bustier on my ankara fabric, and I also cut out my lining. So this is for the back part. You can see the neckline for the back. I've also cut out the lining. So for the yoke of the front and the back, you can see the yoke pattern. I had to transfer it to a lighter paper. You can see the brown paper that I'm holding right now, and it is on fold. So I had to transfer my yoke to a lighter paper because I will be sewing on this paper. So using a lighter paper is better. You can use a newspaper if you have a newspaper also. This is what we are going to use for our yoke. So right now I will cut out the net that I'll be using for my yoke. So this net should be like 4 inches wider than your yoke, like 4 inches longer than the normal yoke. You can see that the net is longer than the yoke. So right now you will open up the net and you will start gathering the net on this paper. I have done this type of tutorial before. So I am done gathering around the sweetheart neckline. I'll go ahead and trim off the excess that I have on both sides. Then I will trim off the rough part. You can see how I gathered on that paper. This paper will serve as a guide for me because this is our yoke and our yoke is gathered. So sewing it on this paper will serve as a guide so that you get the actual shape you want your yoke to have. So I'll go ahead and gather and sew around the neckline and the shoulder, also on the armhole. So you can see I am done running a stitch at the shoulder around the neckline. So when you are trimming off, you will just trim off only the shoulder area. You will only trim off the shoulder area. You can see what I'm doing. You will trim off the shoulder area, then you will leave like 1 inch or 2 inches around the neckline before trimming. You can see I did not trim exactly on my neckline. I came up by 2 inches. You can see that I have extra net around there. So this is how this yoke will look, and we'll also repeat the same thing on the back yoke. You can see what I have right here. So trim off the shoulder area but leave like 2 inches around your normal neckline. So this is all for the front, and for the back I will gather on the both yoke and I will repeat the same thing that I did on the front. When trimming, I will just trim the armhole, the shoulder area. Around the neckline, I will leave 1 inch extra net around the neckline before trimming. So you can see what I'm doing right there. Then you will trim your zipper allowance area. So I'll also repeat the same thing on my other yoke. You can see I'll repeat the same thing on the other yoke. So right now this is what we have for the back, and I will go ahead and fix my yoke to my normal bust. I'll iron it first of all so that the gathers will relax. Remember to steam it, like remember to sprinkle water on it and iron. Then I'll also repeat the same thing on the front. After doing this, you go ahead and tear off the paper. The paper has served its purpose, so you have to tear out this paper. This paper just served as a guide when pleating our yoke. So just tear off the paper before you go ahead and join this yoke to your top. So you can take your time and remove all the paper around the seam allowance. So right now I will join my yoke and I will turn it with a lining. I'll also repeat the same thing at the back. I will tear off the paper and I will join my yoke. Then I will go ahead and turn with the lining. So after turning them, I will iron them properly. And after ironing, I will take out the zipper allowance for the back first of all. Remember, this yoke has a zipper allowance also. So I am done taking out the zipper allowance, and right now I will place the front on the back. So if you are joining this shoulder area or the neckline area, I will show you guys how to do it. So you will pick the front and the back shoulder, then you will sew a straight line from the neckline first, then you will join your shoulder. You can see you pick the other side, you will sew a straight line. You will join your neckline first, and then you will join your shoulder. So I'll go to my sewing machine and join that. I have also taken my body measurements. I'll go ahead and trim off the half length and the armhole. You will have to retrim your armhole after shaping, and after that I will also retrim my half length before joining it to the skirt part. So right now I'll go ahead and join this upper part to the skirt part. So the only thing we have remaining right now is the sleeve and the ruffles. This is the upper part. The upper part is ready for now. So this is for the ruffles. I want to make the length of my ruffles 8 inches. So I'll go ahead and fold my net, and I will cut out 8 inches. I will cut out 8 inches. This is what I will use to make my ruffle. So after cutting out this 8 inches, you will have to gather it alone, not on the fabric. Just gather it separately before adding it to your fabric. It will be very easy for you. So after cutting that, I will use the remaining net to cut my sleeve. My own sleeve is different from what you have on the thumbnail. The normal sleeve will be a kind of fitted, then you will have gathers around the wrist of your sleeve. It is more like a funnel sleeve, but it will be gathered. So I still have some here. I will use it to cut out my gathers for my sleeve, and the remaining net that I will have to add it to my ruffles to make my ruffles fuller. So if you want to have exactly what we have on our thumbnail, you should buy at least 7 to 8 yards of net. You'll be very okay for you if you are sewing the sleeve that we have on our thumbnail. So right now I will use these remaining nets to complete the ruffles that I was cutting. So right now I'll go ahead and gather these ruffles. Like, I will pick them, I will layer them 4 times. So if you count, I have 4 layers of nets on this ruffle. I have 4 layers, 1 2 3 4. So it will make it fuller and it will make the color to pop. So right now I'll go ahead and trim off the rough parts around the area that I gathered this net from. Remember, I have gathered the net separately. I will just trim off the rough parts so that it will look neat before joining it to my gown. So that is all for now. So right now I will join my upper part and the skirt part first of all, but if you want to join them separately, fine, but I'll advise you to join your top to your skirt part before adding these ruffles. So if you want, you can also add your sleeve. So I am done making my sleeve. So this is my sleeve. I'll go ahead and add my sleeve at this point. I'll go ahead and join my sleeve. So after joining the half length, I will join the sleeve. Then I will come back and show you guys how to join the ruffle. So if you have a zipper, you should buy a 30 inches zipper so that the zipper can reach the neckline of the yoke. So this is my ruffles. I am done joining. I'll go ahead and place the ruffle the way I want it to be on this yoke area. You can see I'm placing it the way I want it to be. And I will cut off. Then the remaining one, I will add it to my skirt part. I will mark it out on my skirt. Then I'll go ahead and sew. So take your time and join this. You can pin them down before sewing. So at the end of the day, this is what I have. I hope our dress is beautiful. So thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, our November classes, registration for our November classes is ongoing. So you can just send a DM to @sewwithijoma on Instagram. Do not forget to like and subscribe so that you can get more tutorials from me. Thank you guys. I love you so much, and see you in my next video. Bye.